On the eve of the budget last year, 78-year-old farmer Philip Charlesworth took his own life. Having worked the land from childhood, he was dedicated to the farm passed to him by his father and had always planned to hand it down to his son, Jonathan, who'd already been running it for years. Jonathan invited me to the farm near Barnsley, opening up about his father's tragic death. He said the inheritance tax changes had left his father racked with worry. Why? Well, the farm was only generating 15 grand a year. It would have been impossible for the family to pay the inheritance tax bill Rachel Reeves was demanding without selling the farm and losing their livelihood.
And I got a phone call from my uncle saying, I can't get through to your dad. And so, well, I'll go out and find him. And I'd seen my mum in the door. My mum had got dementia, but she was fully dressed with boots, and so I thought they must be going out for a walk. And my kids were out playing in the yard, and I nearly said to them, go and find Grandpa, and for some reason I didn't. I don't know what stopped me, and I'm so glad I didn't, because I went round and obviously found him. That's an image that'll stay with me for the rest of my life, and I'm just so glad that the kids didn't see that. But everything after that just became a bit of a blur. The last sort of 6 or 7 months have been an absolute sort of roller coaster in a bad way. It's dealing with everything. It's just paperwork and probate, and it's even the amount of work my dad did was amazing, and you kind of don't realise until somebody's gone, even at 78. It's devastating, absolutely devastating on a personal level, because he was a great dad. He was, but also on on the farm misses him as well. And he got a good few years ahead of him, I think. As well.
Your dad was 78, wasn't he?
He was 78,
he was in good health.
He was in good health. I mean, but I think he just thought, am I going to live 5 years? You don't know at that age, do you? The one positive that did come out of the coroner's inquest was that she agreed with us that the inheritance tax and the worry about it had played a part, and that was the one thing I was hoping to get out of that, because that puts a lot more weight behind it than just me saying it. I think if it carries on, I think next March will be like National Suicide Month, if we're not careful, before the regulations come in. Because anybody that's thinking, am I going to last the next few years, and the money's not there, and I'm not by any means don't want anybody to do it, because I think when you're on the other end of it, you realise that people are worth a lot more than what you're going to lose. So it's not something anybody should even contemplate doing, but they will. Sadly, people will feel that way, and that they've got this, and they want the next generation to have it, but they've been pushed into a corner. I mean, it's incentivised suicide, really, is what they've done, by just not giving enough time for people to plan. I'm trying to turn my dad's death into something positive, to raise awareness to what is going to happen to a lot more people if we're not careful, and we don't want it to happen to anybody else. No. And hopefully by raising awareness and publicising it, and hopefully just keep banging away at the government, they might actually turn a light switch on in somebody's head that realise what they actually are doing, and they're putting people's lives at risk.
Have you been in touch with other families around the country? Because sadly, your dad isn't the only case that we've heard about.
I have heard about others from people close by to them, but obviously they've decided they don't want to publicise it, which is fair enough. I completely understand that, but I think somebody told me there've been about 6 suicides, and then there's certainly 2 or 3 people that are refusing treatment for various illnesses just so they don't last past the inheritance tax date. And what a sad state of affairs that is.
Yeah. And do you have a message for Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor?
The lack of understanding, I think, the vindictiveness towards not just farmers, but anybody that's got any sort of entrepreneurial ambitions. I think she just sees all farmers as rich folk riding around in the shiny tractors. But if you go to somebody who owns a factory, they've probably got hundreds of £1,000s worth of machinery behind that wall that nobody ever sees. But tractors out on show, but it's there. It's a tool of the trade. It's not a toy. It's a tool of the trade.
Jonathan's father had been caring for his wife who had dementia. Facing care costs of up to £50,000 a year, Philip's financial pressure mounted. Jonathan is adamant, though, that his father would still be alive, had it not been for the inheritance tax changes. He fears the measures will put off a generation of young farmers.
But there was a reason why farms had this special treatment, because government after government, year after year, could see that it was important to be able to hand them on from generation to generation. And chancellors, Conservative and Labour, frankly, were often presented with this idea, but they all chose not to do it for a reason.
Yeah.
Because they could see that it was a bad one, it was going to be really harmful to farmers. It just didn't work, because farmers got afford to pay it, and it was going to break this invisible chain of generation after generation.
It's also about food security. Because if you would be not just losing family farms, you'll be losing a lot of talent. I've got 4 children, and the youngest one loves farming, he's into it. I think, but my oldest one now, he's been and done a degree in computing. He works 4 days a week, earns probably 3 times as much as me. And you think, I don't blame him. Last year we made about 15,000, but when you put the hours in, I think it works out about £3.84 an hour or something like that.
What's your message to other farmers who might be very, very worried right now, and you just want them to talk to their families, don't you? And
I think until you've experienced suicide, you really don't understand it. It's a very, very, very different feeling to losing somebody in a natural way. What my dad did, he did it what he thought was the right reasons, but the legacy is left is not how we want to remember him, and no child will want to remember their parents in that way. And I think anybody that's worried about it, think about that, think about not just what you're protecting, but what you're actually going to leave in somebody's head when it happens. And talk to people. Talking is definitely key. If you can't talk to your family or friends, and there's a lot of local farming charities around the country that can be contacted.
Stories like Jonathan's are sadly not as rare as they should be. Farming was a way of life for his father Philip, like his father before him, who worked hard to scrape together the money to buy the land. A tax that could force our farmers to sell wouldn't just devastate their way of life, it would seriously threaten Britain's food security and our rural way of life forever.